So today I'm going to give you knowledge on AWS Command Line Interface (CLI), which we call it as. It's a unified tool to manage your AWS services. So in the previous sessions, I guess we already had some 4 connect sessions. In the 4 connect sessions, we were connecting to the AWS services via AWS Management Console, which is your uh, GUI mode, that is graphical user interface. So if you look at it, this is what we call it as a AWS management console. And here we will be having multiple services which we can go ahead and operate on, and we can create an instance, we can create S3 bucket and so on. Everything is through a graphical mode of operations. The workflow is completely on graphical mode. But today what we are going to explore is how we are going to operate such workflow via AWS CLI, command line interface. This is not that much essential in terms of certification, but from the knowledge perspective, we have to learn this because you might be working with CLI mode rather than using a AWS management console when you want to redundantly apply that workflow. So during the testing period, you wanted to create an instance 10 times or 15 times. You need to terminate the instance. You have to recreate the EC2 instance again and again. Then in that case, we can create a script oriented of CLI, and then we can inject that script as and when required. So automatically the instances will get created based on the commands that's going to be injected from the command line interface. So I'll show you the demonstration. At the time you can understand it. So we quickly move on with the slides. I have some 4 to 5 slides which we will cover up quickly, and then we'll get into the demonstration part. Now coming to this CLI, you have a Windows edition which you can go and download it. Here the link is provided. I'll be sharing the slide. So you can go to this particular link and you can download your AWS CLI tool, and you need to install it in your machine. If it's a 64-bit operating system of Windows, you go to this specific link and you get the installer and then install it. But if you're working with other platforms, let's say for example Linux platform, any other mode, let's say for example you want to provision it on the Docker, you have CLI exclusively for that. This is a general perspective of guidance on CLI. There you will be getting how you can go for installing the CLI tool for other environments other than the Windows. So I guess majorly 95% of our group is working on with Windows. So in that case, you can go direct to this link and then get the version of CLI, and installer will open, will get launched, and you know how to move forward for the installations. Now, so what we can do with this is, once you get the AWS CLI installed, we need to configure the credential. Okay, we have to go ahead and configure the credential. So it's a different way of configuring the credentials here. You will be in need of having an access key ID and secret access key. Okay, access key ID and secret access key. With that only you can log into your account. So before, what we did, we went on to the AWS Amazon.com, and then we went on to the management console login, and then we provided the email address and the password, or the ID, user ID and the password, and then we log into the AWS management console. But coming to the CLI, you will be using the access key ID and secret access key. So we need to generate a separate access key credentials for logging in via CLI, or it could be from your API also. You'll be using an application where application wants to communicate with your AWS instances, then you need to provide your access key. You can't provide the user credentials, user ID credentials you cannot provide. You need to provide only your access key and secret access key informations. So that's about the configuration details. This will be captured in your local machine. In the local machine, you'll be having your location where this details will be captured by the AWS CLI tool. So once we offer that, a screen will look like this. So we need to inject the tool like AWS Space configure, and then it will prompt for AWS Access Key ID, secret access key, and the region that you want to work with, and what kind of an output format that you want from the response of each and every command that you're going to inject. So when I'm saying I want to create an instance, EC2 instance, you can do so from the CLI itself. So in that case, the response will be there. Do you want the response in the form of a JSON? You can mention that. Or is that form of a text? You can mention that. Or is that in the form of a table? You can mention that. So there are 3 standards of output formats are there. We'll see that shortly. Now, so one CLI tool is eligible to do all the installations and configurations for all the AWS services. It's not only for EC2 or it's not only for S3 bucket. You imagine any AWS services which you can operate just by looking at the console screen, and you can keep injecting all the commands. The only thing is we have to keep remembering all the commands, but advisably, it's good to work with console-based interactions with the AWS services, because as you go along with real-time implementations in your project or anywhere, then you have to speed up your automation process and redundancies using the CLI command. Great. So this is what a command would look like. Okay. AWS is the CLI tool. AWS is the CLI tool command. So AWS is nothing but your tool, CLI tool, AWS CLI tool. Once you download from the command prompt, you will be injecting the command called AWS space. For what service you want to perform your operations. That's all about your EC2. And this EC2 is nothing but your AWS service command. Okay. And the third option you have, which is called as your describe instance, which is nothing but sub command. EC2 is your service command, and from there you can go for sub commands. These are the 3 major commands and tools that we will be using. Apart from that, we will be creating complex commands and options. We'll be using to represent options there. Option for a specific command can also be offered. So AWS space EC2 space describe instances is one example of working on with this AWS CLI tool. Okay, so AWS is nothing but the CLI tool. EC2 is the service. So in place of EC2, what you can exchange there is S3. You can work with S3 over there. So once you give the S3 details, you need to provide your S3 based informations as well. Okay, so that is how we work around with the commands in the AWS CLI tools. Let's get into the action mode and see how we are going to work around with this CLI implementations. So we have to go to AWS Management Console. I have already logged into my console screen, and you can see that we have this IAM, which is very much important to discuss right now, because via this IAM service only you will be eligible to create the access key and secret access key. So get into the IAM service, and already I have one user created in my root account. Okay. So right now I'm on the InfyXP1 is the root is the administrator user that I have. You can click on that InfyXP, and you can get into the security credentials. In the security credentials option, you can see there is an option to create an access key. Okay, you have to click that create access key. It will create an access key with the access key ID and the access key, the secured access key as well. So I repeat once again, you have to go to your IAM service, users. You should have one user created, and that user should have been added with administrator access privilege. Okay, once you have done with that, you can go to the security credentials, create access key. It will create immediately. You can see it got created successfully. Please download the CSV file. Quickly download the CSV file. It's a one time that you will be seeing this access key. Next time you cannot download it. Please be assured with that. This access key and secret access key have to be taken as a backup. So they are also giving a provision for that. You download the CSV into your local machine and keep it accessible. Now you can close this, and you can notice that it's already in active state. Can you see this? So this is an active state. If needed, you can make inactive. So if suddenly you don't want anyone to access this key, then you can make it inactive and you can make it again active. If you want to delete this key, you can go ahead and delete it. Everything is possible. Now you have noticed that I'm going to give the access key ID and the password to be shown, okay, on screen. But later what I will do, once the session gets over, I will delete this key, okay, because anyone can log in with this via the CLI, right? So I'll be deleting the entire key. So to be on safer side, ensure that once you practiced with the creation of the key and usage of the key, you better delete the key and recreate it as and when required, right? Great. So I guess we are done with this the generation of this access key. Now the CSV file, comma separated value, okay, will carry your access key ID and the secret access key. These two informations are required. Good. Now let's get into the console. I have the PowerShell. Okay, you better access your Windows PowerShell mode. Can you see? Because it has more visibility to use AWS CLI compared to other common console screen. You cannot go and do a CMD. CMD means command prompt. But PowerShell will have more privilege. So I'm using PowerShell right now. So right now I'm on a specific directory called Connect-5-Demos, okay, which I have created right now. And if you can see here, there is one file called sundarpichai.jpg as well. I guess if we find time, we will be working on the S3 also. But so that I have this file readily available in my directory of Connect-5-Demos. But what we are going to do right now is I'm going to use this command called AWS. Already the CLI is installed in my machine. You can check for that. I guess I have an older version of AWS CLI. Right now you have 2, okay? Version 2 is available, but I don't have the access to that. That's okay. That's not a problem. You have all the commands to be used in this older version of that 1.16 itself. Now, AWS is the command that we are going to use. That's the one test that we have done right now. AWS space -- version. So it gets you the version output. If it's not coming, then you don't have the AWS CLI installed in your machine. Please be noted about it. Okay. By this way, you can check whether you have the AWS CLI installed in your machine or not. I guess if you're a first-time learner, then obviously you will not have it. You have to manually install it, and then you can check for the version and see if it's responding to your request. Okay. So now what is the use case is, I want to create an EC2 instance. If you notice, we have this AWS Management Console to create one virtual machine. You can go to the EC2, I guess, in the very beginning, first week or second week or so, we discussed about it, the basics of working with EC2 instance. You can click on the running instance. Right now I have 0 instance, and you can see the key pairs are also 0. I don't have any key pair. So running instances are completely 0 here. So you can go ahead and launch the instance. So by clicking on the launch instance, you can choose your specific Amazon image. This is your image ID, and this is your free tier. You can go ahead and select, and then you can choose your type, the instance type, which is called as t2.micro. And then you need to go for instance configuration details, choosing the network, subnet, assigning the public IP, and so on. And then if needed, you can add your storage, and then tags, and then security group. So these many things which you might have the option to do it. Okay. But I'm not going to do anything on the UI mode right now. I'm going to do everything sitting from my AWS tool itself, AWS CLI tool itself. I'm going to initiate an instance creation work. Okay. So how are we going to do that? So the first thing that we have to use here is AWS. AWS is the command that we have to use, and space configure. The first command that you are supposed to use is configure. Okay. AWS configure is not specific to any services. It's just a command directly associated with your AWS tool, AWS CLI tool, is having one of its direct command called configure. When I give that configure, it will prompt for certain informations. What is that? The first one is the access key ID. So let's go ahead and grab the access key ID. So here I have the access key ID. Let me drop it in there. And then it is prompting for the secret access key. Let's go ahead and grab that as well. And then you drop it. So if you recall the slide, here, I was briefing about the access key ID, secret access key, and then you have to refer the region name where you want to connect to. Okay, and then you have the output format as well. So you can go ahead and leave this enter, so that by default it's AP-South-1, which is Mumbai region. Okay, we just go ahead and use them. Now you can see the output format default is stable. If you want the response in the form of JSON, you can change it to JSON. Okay, this is at the time of connecting to your account. So see how many informations that we have to provide in order to connect via AWS CLI. Okay, so just give enter. I don't want the table approach, I want the JSON, or you just want it in the form of a text, you can go ahead and give it as text. Okay, but let me take it up as a JSON. I'm much comfortable by reading the JSON responses. That's all. I'm connected to it. But is that I'm connected successfully or not? That response is not there. Okay, it says, it just comes out of the prompt, and then it never notifies us whether we got successfully connected or not. So let's go ahead and check that once, AWS, and you can use the command called EC2. So this EC2 is the service command. Now I'm entering into the specific service called EC2 Service via the CLI. So AWS space EC2 space describe instances. You have a described instances. This described instances is the sub command. AWS space EC2 space describe -instances is your sub command. And in the sub command, what exactly happens is, it will try to list all the instances that you have created in your account. So let's hit enter and see if we are able to get the list of instances. Now it says the reservations are empty. Why the reservations are empty? It's because we don't have any instance running in our account right now. So if you see, the number of accounts that we have here is completely empty. We don't have any instance running out here, right? So in that case, obviously your response will be empty here. We don't have any instances running. So this is the command that I showed right now here, AWS EC2 space describe -instance. So what the describe -instance is doing, it's giving you the description of all the instances, EC2 instances that you're running on your specific account, right? So now let's go forward and try to figure out more commands out of it. But before that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Keeping in mind that this AWS CLI tool is only from the console approach. Okay, so we can't use this AWS CLI tool in anywhere else. So it has to be accessed only via the CLI mode. That's why the tool name itself is AWS CLI. So let's move forward. The first thing that I'm going to do is, we need to have a key pair to be created in order to launch our instance. So if you go to the UI, you can quickly create a key pair. You can just go to the key pair section, and here you can quickly create a key pair. This is UI mode. But what I'm going to do right now is, I'm going to create a key pair from AWS CLI. So we are going to use certain commands here. AWS space EC2 Service, subcommand is create -key -pair. Create -key -pair is a subcommand space -key name. So what is this -? Is the option that we have to use on top of the subcommand. So -key -name followed with the name of the key pair that you want to create. So I'm saying it's infixp is the name of the key pair that I want to define. Right now, if you see, I don't have any key pair in my console. In the UI console, if you see right now, we don't have any key pair. I voluntarily deleted all my existing key pairs for this demonstration. So I'm going to create a new key pair. but there are few more add-on options have to be engaged with. I'm using -- query option, where in the query I'm saying it's a key material which need to be created. Key material followed with space -- output. I'll brief you about what it is. Space text, and then you have to use the pipe which represents an OR, and then the out file. This is for Windows environment, so slightly we have to add more options on for Windows environment, that too sitting from the PowerShell. So encoding space ASCII format -file path space. Okay, now I'm going to say the private key which need to be created in the form of a PEM file. So I'm going to use summary.pem. So what exactly happens here is you're creating a key pair by giving the key pair name, okay, and you're downloading the PEM file, the private key. Okay, the public key will be held by your AWS environment, but the public the public key will be held by the AWS environment, and the private key will be held by the user. So we need the private key to be downloaded in our local machine. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. So let's go back to our Connect5 demos directory. So right now I don't have any PEM file being created, but actually I need to operate with the ppk file. Okay, because I'm going to use the PuTTY environment. What this output says is the generation of the key pair should be outputted in the form of a text, and the output file of that text should be in the ASCII format, because we are in the Windows environment. While generating the PEM, we need to use the standard of ASCII. These are not your AWS commands. These are your Windows commands. Okay, your AWS commands is done out here itself. That's why we separated with the pipe. This is what is AWS CLI's commands and options. What you have after the pipe is all only to your Windows operating system's instruction. Okay, so with that, let's hit enter and see if we are able to create a PEM file. It has to respond. So response, I guess it's success. So you can see there's a PEM file got created, but I want to convert this PEM file into an ppk file. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to say PuTTY gen is key generator. Okay, you can get the tool downloaded in your machine, PuTTY gen, and here what we are going to do is load, choose for all files. You will find the PEM. Okay, this PEM file have to be opened in the PuTTY key generator. Successfully it got imported. Once it is imported, now you can save the private key, where this will be converted into a ppk format. Okay, while converting, ensure that it is in the RSA mode. You have to choose your RSA mode. If it's an older version of PuTTY generator that you are using, then we have to choose SSH. But right now I'm using RSA mode. No other changes. You have to save the private key. Just click on save private key and say yes. And here you can give the name as summary. Okay, and you can see the extension is .ppk. Save it. That's all. Now you have the ppk. Why I need the ppk file is in my mission I need to connect from the PuTTY, so I need the ppk file. If you use the SSH mode of communication, then you can use the PEM file. Okay, the conversion is from the PEM to ppk by using the PuTTY gen. Now once it's done, you can close it. Okay, then let's go back and now let's create one EC2 instance and try to log in. That's what is the demonstration is all about. So what we are going to do right now is, you can also get to know about your key pair details. So you can say AWS space EC2 space describe -key pairs. Okay, -key name. So what is the name of the key pair that we have created? InfyXP. The name of the key pair is InfyXP, but the ppk file is summary.ppk. Okay, don't get confused. That is the key pair that we have created. So it gives the complete information about the key pair that's been created on the AWS environment. If you go back and if you try to refresh this, you will see a key pair got created, InfyXP. Just now we have created. So now we are ready to go ahead and launch one instance. We'll go ahead and launch one instance via this AWS CLI tool. So AWS space EC2 space run hyphen instances. Okay, run hyphen instances is the sub command. AWS space EC2 is a service command, space run hyphen instances is your sub command, and space option is the first thing that you have to choose is the image ID, because you will create your EC2 instance only with the help of image. AWS mission image, it is called as AMI, AWS mission image. So when I just click on this launch instance, you can notice that AMIs are there, right? Amazon mission image. Now you need to click on the free tier and see that we have one of the free tier image. Now you can see there is an image ID. Can you see this? There's an image ID. This image ID is what you need to get to know about it, and you can paste it here. Okay, hyphen image space if image hyphen ID space the image ID, and then how many instance that you want to trigger. I want to trigger with only one instance, so the count is one. That also you can see here. Once if I select this and if I go to the next, you can see how many number of instance you want here. You say one, the same thing that we do it in the CLI. So hyphen count space one, and then the instance type hyphen instance type. So what is this instance type? By now you knew that. I'm sorry, go to previous. So here, this is your instance type. Okay, the type of the instance. This is the free tier. You need to be very careful. Please be with the choice of t2.micro, because that is what is free tier eligible for. Okay, so hyphen instance hyphen type space t2.micro space hyphen key hyphen name. Now you need to provide the key name. Okay, the key pair that we have created. What is the key pair that we have created just now is InfyXP, right? And then we have to provide the subnet details hyphen subnet ID. So where do we find the subnet ID? That also you can find it here itself. Okay, you can see that there is a subnet ID here. Okay, the subnet ID is mentioned. This is three availability zones are available in Mumbai region. So this is the one which we call it as a subnet ID. This is what we need to offer it in our subnet ID option. So actually this is required if you want to make it more specific to a specific subnet. Okay, if you want to leave it to the AWS choice, then you need not offer them as well. Okay, you can avoid this option. So subnet hyphen 02F2984E. Okay, so I guess the subnet ID is correct. Okay, so that's all we have to do. I guess let's go ahead and can provision this. We can even add the security group, which I haven't done it. So right now you can see why it is in JSON file format, because you remember that at the time of connecting to the connecting to my account via the AWS CLI, I mentioned the output format should be in the form of a JSON. So that's why you get it in the JSON. There are three standard of format. One is JSON, text, and table. So now you can see the major details are offered here. Now let's go back, cancel this. Now you see one instance got created. So how this instance got created? This instance got created with the help of AWS CLI mode. Okay, so you can recall the complete command. It's AWS space EC2 space run hyphen instances space hyphen image hyphen ID. Image ID, how many number of instances you want to create, and what instance type that you want to go for, and then the key pair name followed with the subnet ID. Okay, so and also we can give the security group, which I forgot to do it. So we can manually go and add the security group. The reason why I want to add the security group is because we need to get the internet access, the public to access this instance. So right now you can see there's an public IP. Okay, public IP address is there for this instance. Let's just copy this and go back and open the PuTTY app and then drop in here. You go to the SSH auth and browse for the private key pair. So where is your private key pair is? The place where you have located. You just go ahead and access that. So this is the private key pair PPK file which we have converted and created. So you can click open. It is waiting. It is waiting to connect to that instance, but somewhere down the lane it is not able to connect it. The reason might be we don't have the privilege to access the instance. Okay, from the internet you don't have the public internet. From the public internet you don't have the access to the EC2 instance, because EC2 instance is provisioned in a private cloud, VPC, okay, virtual private cloud, which is not having an inbound access from the public, but it can only do an outbound access. Inbound, it won't accept any request from the public internet. So we need to give the privilege for that by changing the security group. So let me cancel this, go back and choose your instance and click on the actions, networking, change security group. You can see I already have my own security group. This is what we need to mention in the security group option. I forgot to do that. So security group and then the name of the security group. What this does, it gives a public access. It gives a public access for SSH and as well as for HTTP. Okay, it's a complete public access for both the tunnel. It could be SSH tunnel or it could be HTTP tunnel. So you can assign this security group by just assigning. Let's go back and launch the putty and provide the IP address. Go to your SSH authentication, browse for the private key and then click open. Now perfect. So since we have enabled the public internet to access the EC2 instance, it's connecting. And now it's saying login as EC2-user. That's the root user that we have always, and it's completely connected right now. So you can do it's a Linux machine, so you do whatever you wanted. You just create one VI editor and then say type something. Okay, a file got created here in my EC2 instance. It's a virtual machine right now running, up and running. So if you just want to access that file again, you go and access. So VI editor is working fine. So what exactly happened here is we provisioned an EC2 instance sitting from the CLI tool, AWS CLI tool. Okay, so I'm running out of time right now. So let's quickly go for two more commands of understanding. So AWS EC2 Space. Okay, if you want to stop the instance, or if you want to start the instance, or if you want to terminate the instance, you can do so. So if you see here right now, my instance is up and running. Okay, this instance state is up and running. So what I can do is I can use the same AWS CLI tool command, the service command EC2 space. You can say stop instances means you can stop multiple instances in a single injection of a command itself. But which are those instances? So you have an option called instance IDs. Okay, instance IDs. See the option name. It's instance IDs space. You need the instance ID. This is your instance ID. So how do I get the instance ID? That's why we have that option. Okay, EC2 space describe. Okay, you have the instance describe options. So using that, you can go ahead and get the instance details also. AWS EC2 space describe instances. So here in the first informations, you have the instance ID. This instance ID and this instance IDs are same, right? So you can just copy this and trigger the command of AWS EC2 space. You can say stop instance. Stop instance means it's like shutting down. Stop instances space instance IDs space. You can give your it's not copied well. You can say So once you provide the instance ID and you hit enter, it will trigger the shutdown process. So the name of the operation is stopping. Now if you refresh here, you can see it's getting stopped. Now the stopped instance can be started again. So for that you can use the same instance ID, but in place of stop, the sub command is start instances. Okay, so let's wait for wait for the stopping operation to complete. So eventually we'll be using the start instances to start the instance again. Okay, so it got stopped. Now let's trigger this start instances again. And it says the status is pending. Let's refresh this. So it will take some time in order to trigger the instance to start back. Now the instance is up and running. Okay. Now what we can do is, I want to terminate this. So again, you have the sub command called terminate instances. Terminate instances, and by that way, you're completely terminating your instances. I'm sorry. Terminate, spelling is wrong. Okay. So by this way, we instruct the AWS EC2 API to accept the command of termination, and it triggers the termination. Now, what is the advantage of using the CLI? Why we need to complicate ourselves by remembering all these commands? You don't need to remember all these commands. Now, if you remember, if I want to recreate the instance, I have terminated. What do you have to do? You have to go and launch, and all the UI, you need to do it again. Okay. But instead of that, you can just copy this complex command which you have written. Okay. Take a copy of it, and then you store it. Next time, while you want to create the similar fashion of an instance, you can quickly copy and paste it in the CLI and inject it in a fraction of a second. Your instance is up and running. So the script is used again and again. So if you are in the testing mode, okay, or in the development mode, you might be doing this operation of not only for EC2. Let's take an example of S3 bucket. You'll be creating an S3 bucket instance, and then you'll be storing some images onto it. You'll be doing it recursively for many times. So you need not delete the bucket, create the bucket manually by using the UI. Once in a month you are going to do it, then it's better to go for AWS Management Console. But once in a month you will be doing 100 to 200 times, then obviously it's better to choose your CLI, AWS CLI mode of operations to perform in place of UI mode. You're getting it? So it's pretty easy there. So in that case, we have the option to use the AWS CLI effectively for any services. It's not only for EC2. It can be used for S3 bucket. It can be used for launching an DynamoDB instance. You can even create a virtual private cloud. You can create in subnet. Do whatever you do on AWS Management Console UI can be 100% done on AWS CLI also. So I'll stop here. I thought of giving even the demonstration for creating an S3 bucket from AWS CLI, but probably we'll catch it up in the next session.